Hey guys, what's going on? This is Kyle at Projection Hub, and today I want to talk about what are 5 ways you can impress your SBA loan officer. Now, I'm talking about this because I used to be an SBA loan officer. And my time before Projection Hub, I was an SBA loan officer for almost 7 years with an SBA microlender in Indiana. So I got a chance to work with hundreds of different, founders and existing businesses and startups, review their applications, review their business plans, their financial projections, help them put together their application package and kind of take it through the lending and underwriting process. And so given that experience, that's what I'm going to talk about today. What are, 5 things that always really impressed me? And even in my time now with Projection Hub, where we've helped more than 50,000 small businesses, especially create their financial projections for their business plans and loan applications and pitch decks, what are some of the things we're doing to help them get those ready for lenders? So if at any point you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps us as a fellow small business. And sorry about my dog back here, and if you have any questions, just comment down below. We'd be happy to help you there, or you can contact us directly at support@projectionhub.com. If you need any help preparing for your SBA loan application process, we just provide general guidance. We help with financial projections, with business plans, you name it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into those 5 ways to impress your SBA lender. All right, to demonstrate my first way to impress your SBA loan officer, if you're trying to get financing for your startup or for an existing business or whatever reason you're trying to get your SBA loan for, I'm going to use our handy dandy SBA loan application checklist. This is a free tool. You can get it down in the description below. I think it maybe is popping up on the screen here somewhere, but free resource, which you can see here, lots of links to guides and videos and tools meant to try and prepare you for an SBA loan application process. In this section down here, we've got a section for documents for startups, documents for existing businesses, and documents for acquisitions. And then we've got some additional documents depending upon your kind of specific use case. And so you can grab this link to help you for whatever your case is. We've got lots of other videos to help you do the same. But my point is, having as many of your documents prepared as possible will impress your SBA loan officer. If they know that you've done your research, and you know what, there's going to be documents. I'm not going to go through all the documents here in this video. We've got other videos that do that, or you can reach out to us and ask us if you have specific questions about some of your documents. But there are some general documents you're going to need no matter where you apply. If you're a startup, that's going to be your personal tax returns, your business plan, your financial projections. You're going to need those no matter where you go. If you're an existing business, you're going to need your personal tax returns, your business tax returns, your year-to-date financial statements, your balance sheet, financial projections. If you're expanding, there's going to be more for existing businesses, and acquisitions are kind of a combination of the two. But there are some that you're going to have no matter where you go. Now, there are some documentation you're just not going to be able to prepare for, or some lenders will have their own forms or their own versions they like you fill it out. They like to have you fill out like the application, personal financial statements, credit release forms, maybe a debt schedule. There's different things that they're going to want their version of that thing filled out. But, there are several of these big items, that you can have ready to go. And that will impress your loan officer. The fact that you've prepared, that you've thought about it, they're not going to be offended or turned off if you, on your first phone call, you're like, okay, so what do I need to get you? And they list all the things. And you're like, okay, I'll go work on that. That's not going to hurt their feelings. They're used to hearing that all the time. But if you could say, what are you going to have? And they list it all out, and you can say, all right, well, I already have this, and this ready to go. I can send those to you today, and I'll get the other ones, in the next day or two. That's really going to impress your SBA lender. So that is tip number 1 to impress your loan officer, is be prepared. All right, and tip number 2, similar to one of our documents, it is to, let me open up a set here, and that is to have realistic financial projections that are within industry norms or industry range. And maybe you're wondering, well, how am I supposed to know that? And I'm going to show you. And I've got one of our financial projection templates pulled up here. We've got over 100 of these, and I'll link to the library down below. I'm using the barbershop template right now. And so these are all built to be industry specific, and anybody can use these. We have a video guide for every single template on how to fill them out. You only fill out these 4 blue tabs inside these blue boxes, and it'll really help you, like the barbershop. We're talking about our menu of services we've got here, how we're acquiring customers, are we going to sell any products, pre-filled out with information, so it's super helpful. Your monthly operating expenses. Sorry, my face is kind of in the way there. If you have any salaried employees, those will go there. And then it creates all of the financials that we would need to put in our business plan, or that your lender is going to want from you. My point is, so let's say you've created your financial projections. Something that can be is a fine line between impressed and a red flag, right? You want your numbers, your first impression with your financial projections. If you're a startup, or if you're an acquisition, or if you're expanding your business, you're going to need financial projections. And that is if they are like, the numbers are way out in left field, or they're super unrealistic, or there's any confusing line items. It's kind of hard to like undo that, to say like, oh, hey, hold on just a second, let me come back in a couple hours and your numbers are totally different. That's just not going to be the most confidence building thing for a loan officer. So you want them to be good the first time you provide them. And a good way to do that is by doing some basic benchmarking. And I'll show you how to do that. If you would create your projections on your own, like using a template like this is how I would do it. So we've got lots of KPIs, or kind of key financial numbers we can use here. One I like to do is the ones that are up in these boxes. So like, let's do net income, which is the same thing as profit margin. Okay, so we can see what our numbers are there. You can just Google things like, what is a typical profit margin for a barbershop? You can use a tool like ChatGPT, which I have pulled up here, which gave me, some financial highlights for a bunch of different things for a barbershop. And I can see profit margin typically is 10 to 15%. So if I go back to my projections, I can see, first year is a loss, and then we're at 10%, 15%, 14%, 16%. So we're like right on range of a typical profit margin for a barbershop. So I could do that same exercise with any number in my projections. I could go, what's a typical revenue for a startup in the first year for a barbershop? What's a good percentage of my operating expenses as opposed to my revenue? And just compare those to mine. So when you create your projections, if you use a template like this, fill out the projections to the best of your ability, and then benchmark those by doing that basic research. And that will help avoid the wide-eyed lender, like, wow, that's interesting. You're expecting to earn 80% profit, right? Because that's just not based in reality. And a really good way to impress them is to know you've already done that, right? So that is the second way to impress your SBA lender. The third one, now keeping the theme of the barbershop, I'm going to bring up one of our free business plan templates. We've got, I don't know, 60 or 70 of these now. These are all free business plan templates. So I've got one pulled up for the barbershop, and I think, where's the barbershop one? Barbershop. Each one of these has a video of yours truly walking through the entire business plan of these and how to like make it lender ready, basically, with a bunch of tips and demonstrations and examples in those, and these key points and whatnot. And we're going to focus on key point number 2 in our free business plan templates, and that is customer acquisition, demonstration, and traction. So this is something that is not typically thought to be put in a business plan, but when I was a lender, this always made the difference in whether we approved a loan or not. And that is there something you can do to demonstrate that you're almost guaranteeing that customers are going to show up whenever you start your business? So it's another key point geared more towards startups. And I'll just say real quickly, like, one of the best things you can do to impress an SBA loan officer for an existing business is going to be just have your ducks in a row and be responsive and make sure your numbers and that things are like accurate and not confusing. If you really want to impress an SBA loan officer as an established business, that's the way to do it. Have all of your documentation, be responsive, and make sure things are accurate with no questions. So a lot of these points are going to be geared a little bit more towards startups. But back to the point of key way 3 to impress your loan is that it's music to a lender's ear, because they know you're not starting from zero, right? You're going to have customers there. You have people, you have advocates that can go out and help you generate more customers. That's just a really, really great way. And it's a good example of traction that can really impress your loan officer. So if your version of whatever you're starting enables you to, the two best examples of traction are, one, pre-launch sales. So is there a way for you to make money before the business even officially launches, whether that's on the side or however you want to do that? That's the best version of traction. And then number 2 is like names on a list. So maybe you can't start selling, or you're not doing that before you launch. but maybe you can get a whole lot of names on a list of people who are interested in coming to your business whenever you launch or whenever you start. So that could be for a Founders Club promo code, or not a promo code, sorry, like a discount code. Anyone that gets signed up before launch, and they get a discount for the first year of any of your services, or whatever your example is in your way, or maybe it's just purely people who want to support and plan to show up because they're excited about what you're doing. Names on a list are great. So that's the third way to impress your SBA lender, is you're kind of ensuring the higher likelihood of success of your business, and your lender is going to be excited about that. Demonstrates a lot of grit and a lot of hustle and a lot of commitment. So that's great. All right, and then let's do key point number 4, and that's going to be, we'll stick with the business plan, go all the way down to the bottom because it's the 5th key point we usually do, and that's being prepared for the skin in the game demonstration for your loan officer. So, there's some different versions of this, but just being prepared for it is going to help this go a whole lot smoother with you and your loan officer. One example is going to be, let's say you needed $100,000 for your startup costs. The lender is not going to give you 100% of that. They're going to, give you maybe 80% of that, or 70 or 80% of that. And you need to come up with, 10 to 20% of your own like personal investment into that, right? So that's one form of skin in the game, is you're going to have to put up cash to get the loan. Some other versions of that are going to be, you're going to be personally guaranteeing the loan, right? And so the lender is going to want the loan to be collateralized. And if your business that you're starting doesn't have enough equipment in it, or a building, or something that satisfies that collateral requirement, they're going to be looking at you for ways to help them get comfortable with the loan. So that could be personal assets like free and clear cars, a second mortgage on your house, a co-signer, a very strong co-signer that has, outside income, a strong credit score, like some things that are pretty uncomfortable. And so my point to you is not to impress them by giving them everything. It's being prepared to know what you're willing to do and what you're not, and what you're willing to walk away from. So if they say, hey, I think we're almost there, but we would really feel more comfortable if you had a co-signer, maybe you had already thought of, okay, I thought there was a chance that I might ask for a co-signer, and I had a few months back already asked my dad or my father-in-law or my brother or my friend to be a co-signer if it came to that point, and they said they would be willing to do it. So I've already got one lined up. I just need to confirm with them. Like if you're coming from a loan officer, whenever I had to make that call and I said, I think you have a co-signer that would help us, usually that was an awkward conversation, or, it would take them a while to come back to me, and that would delay things. And it's a difficult step in the process. But at all those times when I made that call and then someone said yeah, I already asked my parents if they'd be willing to do it a couple months ago, and so that would be okay for them to be on the loan, and we just kept moving. That was great. That was always so impressive that they were prepared to that point, that they didn't tell us that up front because they didn't need to, but when we requested that they were ready to go, and we kind of went forward with that. So that's way number 4 to impress your lender. Hopefully it doesn't come to that point. Hopefully you don't need one of those things, but just being prepared. And then the 5th and final point, and this one's sometimes hard for startup founders to hear, and that's willingness or planning to retain your outside income. A lot of business owners think that what the lender wants to hear is that they are willing to quit their job and focus on the business 100%. And there is a time and place for that, depending upon the opportunity and maybe your savings or whatever. But more often than not, the lender is going to care more about the availability of income to repay the loan than they are capacity to run the business. So what they're really going to want to hear you say is, hey, I am planning to keep my job until, the business is a year old and proving that it can stand on it, or, that it can support me. And then I'm going to move over to the business and it will support me full time at that point, right? The last thing the lender wants to have to account for is that your startup that's making no money is going to have to pay for and provide for you as the owner. So it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's uncomfortable, and it's going to require long hours, and it's going to be exhausting and all of that. but one of the best things you can do to impress a lender is being willing to maintain your income until you don't need it anymore, and then the business can take care of you. So try and plan for that. And that is 5 ways to impress your loan officer or your SBA loan officer, especially if you're trying to get a startup coming from a former SBA loan officer. So if you have any questions, reach out to us at support@projectionhub.com. Comment down below. We can answer you there. But yeah, if you're in the startup process and you're preparing for the SBA, or you need a business plan, or you're working on your projections, those are all things that we can give some advice on, guidance on, or even help you with those things. So don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know how we can help you. So we wish you the best of luck. Thanks.